Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ranting Atheist podcast. So we'll be continuing from where we left off last week. This is the second part of Obed's story. So if you didn't listen to the episode of last week, please go and listen to get the full context of the story. If you haven't subscribed up, Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube and other places podcasts are available. Check out the show notes for links you may find useful, including our Discord server. We would love to have you there. So now, let's continue listening to the deconversion story of Obed.
Right? So I wanted to go into fashion. So I went into styling.
Okay.
I went into styling. I became a fashion stylist. Was enjoying it until I wasn't, because Ohako clients are shitty.
I don't want to pay money.
So I wasn't enjoying it. Well, it's not even that they don't want to pay you money. They'll just abuse you out there. Because they are paying you, they want to abuse you. So my mom came back from the UK and we were around, we were talking. So one day I was scrolling Instagram and there was this ad. And at the time I was like just doing small makeup. I had a makeup collection, stuff like that. And my mom said, okay, since you have this makeup collection. So I used to do my mom's makeup, right? So there was this ad, come and learn how to do eyebrows for 3,000 naira. And at the time, I didn't have money, and I damn well knew that nobody from my family was going to pay for it. So, and since I was rounding up secondary school, I was like, I did have small money that I had saved up from styling, right? So I told my mom, like, you go and learn it, I'll pay, right? When you learn, you can come, like, teach me. So she was like, she kept posting and posting and posting. I was like, if you don't want to go, me, I'll go. So she was like, okay, go. So I went and I loved it. On my first day, it was supposed to be like a 3-day class. Or after the 3-day class, I spoke to the lady and I told her, I want to intern for you. And she was like, oh, no problem. Like, I already like your work ethic. I like everything about you. So you can come intern here. And that was how I became a makeup artist. Nice. Out of the blue, like that. I learned how to do makeup and I was doing it. But the thing was, I was doing this makeup, but there was still the backlash from family. Because here's the thing, at a very young age, right? My parents, somebody in the school where I got suspended, there was this boy who liked me. And how he thought to express his interest was by sending me a porn website, like he wrote it on a piece of paper and gave it to me.
Wow.
I was like, what? So he sent me gay porn. I was like, okay, no. So I took it home, opened the tab, dropped my phone there. Well, because it's a Symbian phone at the time, like network, property, shit like that. So I dropped my phone on the chair and just went to do something else. And by the time I came back, my phone was gone. I didn't see my phone anymore. So it was later when I found out that one of my house helps had taken the phone.
And snitched?
And she took it to my mother.
Fuck.
yes, she did. She snitched, and my mom, oh God, the beating I got that night. And my aunt was there, and my aunt was like, "Is this what you want to be doing?" And then my sister was like, "Oh, I think my sister had even traveled for a training." So, and then when she got to find out about it, yeah, there was this day in church, the pastor's wife was prophesying, you know. And she said, "Oh yeah, there's this teenager, and but you're dealing with homosexuality, yada yada yada. But you see, the Lord is saying you should come out." And my sister was sitting beside me, so she didn't say anything. Because when we got home, she was like, "I hope that person pastor's wife was talking about wasn't you." I was like, "I don't know." "I don't know, just leave me alone, you know." And she was like, "Okay, you know, she just pray about it," stuff like that. I was like, "Yeah." But the thing was, she told her friends about the fact that, you know, my little brother is dealing with homosexuality. And guess what? They had solutions. Exactly, because you know they're all like rich kids who went to like a rich people university, so they have connections, family connections, and it was a Christian university, so stuff like that. So one of them told her mom, and her mom said, "Oh, there's this African American woman who came in from the US. She's married to this man. They're both pastors in Redeemed, yada yada yada." Like, okay. So my sister told my mom what was up, and my mom was like, "Oh yeah, we'll carry this boy and go there."
Wow.
So they did. And guess what? This woman gave me like a Donnie McClurkin CD. Oh God, thinking about it now is so funny. She gave me like a Donnie McClurkin CD. And you know the thing about Donnie McClurkin is Donnie McClurkin at the time, it was like his, "Oh, I'm no longer gay" kind of testimony.
Remember I heard that juice. Niggas, say God has killed him, Abi. Oh, that nonsense trope.
Yeah, my God, it was. Oh, Jesus Christ. So there was all the counseling, all the therapizing that I got, because it was a lot, right?
Yeah.
And there was the praying the gay away.
Oh, God.
There was the classic, "Oh, God did not create Adam and Steve. God created Adam and Eve." All of that.
Now, who were
So
the
there
people
was-
involved
it
in this
was
constant
eating
bullshit
gay.
rhetoric?
Oh, it was the African American woman and her husband. They were praying the girl out of me.
No family saying that.
Well, my family is pretty conservative. They they want to bury shit under the carpet. So if you can deal with it in the most quiet way, that's how it's going to be.
Appearances over
Right? So
what is actually going
all
on.
of this happened. Yeah. So all of this happened, yeah, and eventually we went out of contact with this woman, and stuff was still happening, and I became a makeup artist. But my family was not having it because, you know, the thing is, everybody is talking. Everybody is talking about this, your younger brother that is doing woman thing. If I catch him, I go beat him. That kind of talk, right? Nigerian talk. So, oh God, it was a thing. And then I remember, like, they were like, "Yo, this makeup thing, you should stop." At some point, they seized my makeup kits. They were like, you can't do makeup anymore. So, and I think eventually they knew that it wasn't going to work. So, and I remember around this time, my oldest brother, I began to have like issues with him because we were the only two boys at home. So I began to have issues with him. And I remember several times he would have violent outbursts where I would get beaten so mercilessly. It is now, but this is not even excusing his behavior, but just thinking back, right? I'm not able to say I wouldn't have done the same because there are so much pressures around you, right? About this one boy, this boy. Everybody around you is talking about this boy. And you just, at some point, the pressure compounds and it becomes too much and you just lash out. Right, and he's one that bottles stuff up inside. And now we have the best relationship. I love him to bits. But yeah, that violence did happen. And I remember all of that and how my parents would always take his side because he's older and shit like that. They don't even want to know what happened. Nothing. And all of this was just there. So there was by this time I already had enough armor, I already had enough armor to be able to say, I've got me, I had enough armor and I had survived secondary school. But going into university was another thing. Going into university, I am so at that time, right, I was a very, very bold person, I'm not, see, I already have shit I deal with and I'm not ready for anybody else's drama, right? Yeah. So I remember one time I was walking around in engineering. I went to River State University. So walking around in the Faculty of Engineering, right? And these guys are following me and being like, oh, see this one now, homo, you know, go waka well, go beat you, this one now. And back then we used to call them SS3 boys. So it was like code name for like cultists and shit like that. Yeah, so we used to call them SS3 boys. So they were following me around and I was walking with my friends and my friends were shaking, right? They were scared because these people could do anything to you. And at some point I just turned back to this guy and I said, my friend, would you get out from here? Are you mad? What's your problem? It was like, Nami they talk to. Like typical Port Harcourt rasness. Yeah. It's like, I go boss head, go boss for head. I was like, get out. Yeah, you're mad. Are you stupid? I was like, get out. Are you stupid? So my friends were like, Obed, calm down, keep quiet, don't talk, just let's run. I was like, run from where? So in fact, I had to hold my friends and it was more like I was the one giving them courage, And I'm the one who is being attacked, but I'm the one giving these people courage. And these people are the so-called quote and unquote masculine men. And yeah, it was kind of my thing at the time. I didn't care, right? So nobody could harass me. Nobody could harass me in school. And I was the type of person, so UST is in Diob, right? Diob is one of the most rough places in Port Harcourt. And I used to walk through Diob. I remember one night I walked through Diob at 1 a.m. 1 a.m. Wow. And I was holding my iPhone in my hand, just pressing it and walking along. It was such a funny thing. And I believe that nobody could do anything to me, And at this time, right, I used to attribute this boldness to the fact that I was Christian. But looking back, nah, it wasn't that. It was just me. So I remember that time I used to do I used to attend 5 services every Sunday. It was in Salvation Ministry, so we did 5 services on Sundays. I would sit through all the 5, 2 services on Thursdays, and still do home cell on Tuesdays. I was that committed, but the church didn't see. No matter how committed you are, if the people at the church don't like you, they don't like you.
Straight up.
So there was the rhetoric around and they didn't like me. They did not. Like, this effeminate boy, why are you effeminate? Why do you walk the way you walk? And I remember it was my 16th birthday. And I was like, when you grow up watching like Sweet 16 on MTV Base, you kind of dream of the fairy tale 16th birthday, right?
Yeah.
And see, at this point, I was this effeminate kid who had been through a lot and was dealing with so much depression. So anything at all could just be my sweet 16. The bar was literally in hell, right? So I walked up I had just joined this service group newly, and I walked up to these people. I had joined the special care unit, and in special care unit, I was part of this sub-service group, the IT service group. So we were the ones that handled the tithe cards, registered tithes, and all those things. So I went to these women actually, who were in my service group, and I told them, hi, I'm turning 16. I said, I'm turning 16. Do you mind just going out with me? Like, it's just Genesis here. It's just Genesis. So they were like, okay, when is your birthday? I said 12th of June. So they were like, okay.
12.
No big deal. So, can you hear me, Ranting?
I would see, yeah.
So these babes here, they just said, okay, we'll hang out with you, right? And I didn't even have so much money, right? But I had told my sister, like, she needed to bake my favorite cake, right? Fruit cake. And she had fruits that she had been soaking for years. So she had been aging those fruits, like raisins and sultanas, mixed fruits kind of shit. So I was like, please make me a fruit cake. So she was like, Obed, boy, I'll make you a fruit cake. And she made it. So I was so excited, So I took this fruit cake to Genesis. They didn't allow me carry it into the restaurant. So I was so bummed about that. And I had to leave it outside, And I went in, met these girls, and I told them, the cake was outside. And they said, what? You left the cake there? And they said we had to run outside so that so that the security man won't spit on top.
Wow.
So we ran outside.
Does that really happen? Got
the cake. I don't know, but we just didn't want it to happen. So we got the cake, moved to another location, and we had fun, like so much fun, because I felt like I was loved in the community of strong women. I was like, my God, I've never experienced this in my life. And so we formed a bond, right? We formed a strong bond. And we all go to the same church. We're all in the same sub-service group, right?
Yeah.
So it was so easy to continue this friendship. So every Sunday we are meeting up we are linking up. So we celebrate each other's birthdays. It was a support system until like guys at the church started getting upset at our relationship. So they were like, yeah, so you had pastors going to this, in fact, one particular pastor, one that he grew up in my house, right? So he knows my family, was my direct older brother's best friend at the time. So he knows my family very well. So he would go to these my friends here and tell them they are the ones spoiling me, they are the ones making me gay and everything. And we're like, oh, you guys are being a bad influence on this boy. So he's telling them these things. And these are Christian girls who are trying to find themselves, you know, who are also trying to make sure that they are living in accordance to God's word.
They fall in line.
Exactly. So these girls decided that they were going to start cutting off from me. And it was so bad because I didn't have any other person, right? These were my people. This is my tribe, you know. I remember one day we were out for evangelism, right? And I walked up to one of my friends and she screamed and lashed out at me. And I was like, Mona, what did I do to you? And she said, so my other friend, Ella, was just standing by the side and she said, oh, don't worry, just go. So I left. I went to sit down in the car with my mom. My mom looked at me and she was like, okay, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And some other guy came to make fun of me and just tell me, you know, this boy, you're not doing well, you know, that sort of thing. So it was rhetoric I was always hearing. But this day I was angry because my friend had just lashed out on me. And who are you, motherfucker, coming to tell me you're not happy? So I shouted back at this guy in front of my mom. And this guy was way older. I shouted back at this guy. And he was like, oh, okay. So he just walked away and my mom was like, but when I went home, I cried, you know, because I was like, okay, so I'm back to being alone. Exactly. My friends are not with me, right? So I'm back to being alone. I'm just there. But these things were just building up, you know, and there was the day I lost my iPad in church. That day I was going through it, you know. I had kept my iPad with my friend's iPhone on top of it. So it was like, oh, just so there was supposed to be your iPad is here, my iPhone is on top of it. So she was leaving the stand and she asked someone to watch it. And by the time we got back, we're like, oh, where's my iPad? And she was like, oh, it was right there. This guy was watching it. And she was like, oh, wait, he gave my phone to me in my hand. And where's your iPad? So we asked him, and it's like, I don't know, where is your iPad? So my iPad was gone. Was panicking, using Find My to track this iPad, and we couldn't find it. We could see that it was still in the church, but we just couldn't find it. And we're playing sounds, but it's a loud church, you can't hear sounds like that. So it was just crazy. I was feeling so bad. And I went to this pastor and I asked this pastor, what is please? So people had told me to go to the pastor, right, to pray so that I'll find my iPad. And I went to this guy, please pray. Yeah, so
wow.
So I was like, please just pray. And he was like, oh, are you paying your tithes?
Oh, wow.
I was like, you see, I was like, yeah, I think I tried. He was like, you think you tried? You see, God did not rebuke the devourer for you because you were not paying your tithes. I was like, oh, okay, please, I'm sorry. I'll be paying my tithes. I'll be paying my tithes, sorry. And then he was now like, okay. And there is sin in your life. I was like, okay. So he said, you're messing around like with boys, there's homosexuality in your life. I was like, okay, not exactly, because right now I'm trying to focus on my business, and even when I'm in school, I'm trying to I work late in school so that I can come home and actually just focus on building my makeup career. And this guy was like, nah, you're doing something. And I said, okay. And I eventually just confessed to a sin that I knew nothing about, you know. And
just to be like,
so
let me just tell you something. And you're like,
well, actually, you know, the funny part was that I actually believed that I had done this thing because I had hated myself so much.
oh, wow.
So I believed that I did it, and I was not aware that I did it.
Wow.
And I was like, what the hell? And this guy took this information, right? And he said a haphazard prayer, and I didn't find my iPad. I went home, lost my iPad, and it was gone, you know? And later on, this was a thing, right? But fast forward a few years, right, I'm beginning to question some things within my church, right? Just because of how I'm being treated in the church. And it's not even too deep, just based on, is this one really love? And just because I was plugged into the grapevine, so I knew church gists. So exactly. So I was just questioning, right? And then I discovered, I think I had discovered Joseph Prince, right? Pastor Joseph Prince. And Joseph Prince was like preaching the grace message, right? You know, the saved by grace through faith, yada, right? He was preaching it. And I was like, okay, this is weird. So after I heard that Joseph Prince message, I went to church on Sunday, and the pastor preached against that message. So I was like, okay, okay. Then I was walking down the road. So I used to walk a lot at the time because it used to help, especially when my school was very far from my house. Like, it was miles away from my house. So I used to walk from school to the house and the house to school because I wanted to think and clear my head, because if not, I'll run mad. So on one of these walks, right? So I ran into this guy, and he said, oh, he was having like a movie screening at his church. And he was like, oh, he just started the church. He just started. And I said, oh, you're a pastor? He said, yeah, but really, I don't refer to myself as a pastor. I refer to myself more as a teacher. I was like, okay, what the fuck is a movie? So I watched this movie, Breakthrough. And later, after the movie, he walked me out, and I was about to go home, and we just got talking, and he was like, oh, okay, I think I like you. We'll be talking. So like, okay, no problem. So he would call me up. I'm at my house, he'll call me. I would go out, meet him, drive around in his car, we'll just be gisting, stuff like that. And he's like, oh, telling me, oh, this is the grace message. So he's like literally introducing me to the grace message, right? And I'm like, okay, so this is wild. This is very, very wild, right? This type of radical grace. I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah, you see, you need to start reading and studying the Bible. Like, okay, studying the Bible. It's like, yeah, you need to start reading and studying the Bible. And then you also have to read books by other men of God and read, like, watch messages. I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll do that. So I started doing this, right? I started reading the books, studying, listening to the messages, all of that. And I was getting the hang of this grace thing, right? And so in 2020, lockdown hit. Pastor Chris was on the airwaves. You know how that went. And so I was listening to him every single day, right? Listening every single day because my parents were listening every single day. So I would listen, take notes, all of that. Was listening to him, and because he was some sort of an authority figure, but I discovered that listening to him was actually very good for me because it was putting rigor into my Christianity, right? So it was opening my mind to the fact that there are different takes to this thing. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I was catching up small, and then later on, 2021, right? It's my mom's big 70th birthday, so have like a party, like a big party, big bash. So it's like really, really epic. Well, it's not, you can't really describe it as epic because it was a very elitist party. So I invited my friend, Lawrence. I invited him to the party. He didn't show up for the party, but he came after. He came to the house after. And my sister came in from Lagos, and some of her friends came in. So we just sat at the table. So we're like gisting. And I think first of all, my sister was with her friends. She was entertaining her friends because my sister was in a really terrible marriage. So we hadn't seen her for a long time. So it was a privilege to be seeing her at that birthday party. So, and even she just lives in Lagos, but we couldn't visit her. So while she was there, right, she was like, yo, I think she called me into the kitchen and she was like, who is that fine boy on the table? I was like, oh, it's my friend Lawrence. Like, oh, okay. And so I didn't think anything of it because she was married at the time. So she was like, oh, okay. So we gisted about, all of us came, sat down at the table, gisted, took pictures, all of that. We had fun that night, right? So the next day, my sister was, we went to drop my older sister at the office. And so my sister was driving, and I was sitting in the passenger seat because my sister doesn't know Port Harcourt, so I had to sit with her. And so she said, oh, don't mind me. I was just looking for a husband for my friend, So I was like, oh, okay, no problem. And I was like, okay. So she went back to Lagos. And then my mom's birthday was on February 14th in 2021. And then February 21st, 2021, right? I'm going to this my friend's church. Right, my mom drops me on the way, right? Because my mom is going to church, so she just is like, oh, okay, since you're going there, I'll pass there, let me drop you off. So even though I went late, attended whatever part of the service I could attend, and then I'm trying to book a ride to go home. and my phone dies. So, and I can't charge my phone. So he's like, oh, okay, don't worry, you charge it in the car, right? So we can just drop you off somewhere. And I was supposed to go buy shoes that day from somewhere around Elime, just really far in Port Harcourt. So I was supposed to go buy shoes. So I told him, yeah, these are my plans. So he said, okay, we tried, but the phone wasn't charging in the car. So we said we would go to a restaurant. He would drop me at a restaurant and I can charge my phone there. So he drops me off. I cross the road and I'm walking into this restaurant. I think it was a Kilimanjaro Chef. So I'm going in there and I turn around and he's right behind me. I'm like, okay, why are you here? I thought you had something to do. And he's like, no, don't bother. I think he said his spirit told him to stay with me. Right? I was like, oh, nice, okay. What the hell? I love the extra company. So he said, so we stayed, we gisted, and my phone was charged. And then I called a taxi. But I began to feel sick, right? I have a heart condition, so I began to have like pain, right? So I was thinking, like, should I go? Should I not go? So I called the person I was supposed to get the shoes from. I told her to meet me halfway. So I got to the spot where we're supposed to meet, and she said she wasn't there. So once I got there, I now took my phone and I called a taxi. And when I called the taxi, somehow my network wasn't working, my internet wasn't working. So I just dialed the number of the taxi company and requested a taxi. So, and after I did this, a car just pulled up in front of me and said, Palm Drive. I said, yeah, Palm Drive. Okay, so I entered the taxi, right? And I didn't think much of it. But I was supposed to be going to my house on Oddly Road. And this driver took a diversion. And I was like, hold up. This is wrong. You're going the wrong way. And this guy was not answering me. And I said, sir, you're going the wrong way. The guy was not answering me. Like, we drove and we passed several police checkpoints. I was trying to signal to the police, like, this is, something's off here. Nobody was even answering me. So by the time we got to some point, Elime, the place where I was supposed to go get the shoes, we got to that junction and somebody just opened the door. He stopped. Somebody opened the door and pushed me to the other side. Right? So I was sitting there and we got to the community in Okrika and they just came, opened the door, told me to come down, and we started walking, right? So I couldn't run because they kept going from compound to compound, greeting people. So my brain was telling me that all these people here are in on this. All these people are in on this. So you need to be careful. Your moves have to be very, very calculated if you're going to escape. Because you don't even know if they are armed. You don't know what is going on here. So you need to be very calm. And because I was already sick, and I could feel my blood pressure going up, so I just had to calm myself by force. So I decided I was going to stay calm. So we walked until we got to like this old abandoned looking house. So we went inside and this guy told me to sit down in the space that looked like a living room. And he walked to the corridor and whistled. And when he whistled, I saw men. Oh God. I saw men with cutlasses and really, really buff looking guys. So I was like, okay,
Shit
what's
just
going
got
on
real.
here? And the thing about me is, exactly. So I was like, so the thing about me is, in that situation, I had a sense of humor. I had a sense of humor. So I was like, I looked at these guys and I was like, okay, interesting. And I was trying to crack jokes. So so they told me to stand up, and I was with food. So the food I was having at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So they took the food, took my phone, took stuff, and they told me to strip.
Oh.
And I took off my shirt, took off my trousers. I was wearing boxers. And they were like, take off the boxers too. And guess what my foolish brain said? I now said, you want to see me naked?
What?
Oh my God. It was so funny. And these guys were like looking at me like, you really don't know where you are. So I eventually took it off. They made a video of me. And when they made the video, right, they were like, this is what you're going to say in the video. You're going to say you came here to have sex. You're gay. You came here to have sex. And I said, oh, so this is what this is. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I was completely nude and they made this video. And so around this time, because I had called my mom prior to tell her I was on my way home. So she was expecting me. Right? Especially since I was sick. She was expecting me. So when I hadn't shown up, she called and she was like, yo, where are you? And that's when these guys picked up and said, oh, your son is in Abia State, in Obingwa local government. Abi Obingwa community. And I was like, Abia State. I mean, I dropped him off to go to church today, like just a few hours ago. And this was around 2 p.m. And she's like, they gave me the phone to speak to her. And she said, where are you? So I had to say the narrative, yeah. And she's like, okay, so you've been talking a lot about Joseph Prince lately. Is this what Joseph Prince is teaching you? I was like, no. Like, okay. So and I said, oh, sorry, mommy. And because I was like, the fact that she couldn't tell was upsetting enough. So I was like, no big deal. Shit happens. So next to call was my brother, like my very older brother. And he asked me like, what's going on? Where are you? And I was trying to so I said, they said, the moment I would say they said, they will take the phone from me and they'll be like, say what you're supposed to say. And they'll give me back and I'll say, they said again. And they were like, you really don't know. So the fourth time they did this, he told me, you know what? Let's teach you a lesson. So at this point, collected the cutlass from one of the guys and started hitting me with it, like hitting me with the flat side. I was like, okay. So at this point, my brain was reset. So I told my brother the narrative, you know, and I went in, right? So I saw other people who were kidnapped there, right? And they took those other people out of the room and put me in there. And they locked the door, right? So, and the only thing I could really do was pray, you know? That was the only thing I could do. Because you're in this situation where you don't know what is happening, right? You don't know anything. So that's all.
Yeah.
So I just started praying, and this guy, so I don't speak loudly. Neither do I even pray loudly. So these guys came and they were banging on the door. I think they somehow forgot that they were the ones who locked the door, and they were telling me to open the door. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I just kept praying, and it was kind of like, oh God, if I don't know how I'm going to survive this, or whatever. So eventually, the same pastor who had turned my friends against me and told and gaslighted me into making a confession of homosexuality. This guy called he called that night and he uttered the words, "You're bringing shame and disgrace to your family."
You see that somebody has reported you already from the calls you made?
No, nothing. It was just my parents who had called, like when they're trying to. Yeah, so my parents were trying to call, like when your child is going through this, right? You're just trying to call everybody and just let everybody know. And he was the closest person to the church. So they had called him and told him. So he called me and told me, "You're bringing shame and disgrace to your family." And I was like, okay. I was like, sorry. So he said, "Is that all you've got to say?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry." And I just let them take the phone away. And I remember, like, the next morning, my sister spoke to me on the phone and she asked me, "Obed, is the phone on speaker?" And I said, "No, the phone was obviously on speaker." So I said, "No." She said,
"After the honest trailer, check out the educational song we made to help memorize the name."
No, it's what happened. So they were like, so she was like, "Okay, no problem." And my dad took the phone, asked the same questions. I said the same thing. And then later that afternoon, right, these guys, so this particular guy among these people, among my captors, came in the room and he was like, "See, your parents are busy saying God of the Biome will save you. Are they mad?" I was like, I don't know what is going on. I'm not there. And he said, "You know what? I'm going to break your bones." And he collected another cutlass and he used the blunt side of the cutlass and he was hitting me with it. And he was like, "My intention is to break your bones right now." And I was like, oh God, if I don't die at this point. So eventually I did not die, right? I survived it. And I told them to call my uncle. And my uncle would not waste time. Like, my uncle would just give them whatever they wanted. So they called my uncle, and my uncle was in the theater. My uncle is a surgeon. So he was doing surgery at the time, so he didn't pick up. So I called his son, and his son is a journalist. So he was like, "Oh, okay." So he was like, okay, he will pull some strings to try, and nothing happens. So eventually, I stayed there another night, and the next day, they let me go.
No ransom, nothing.
So when I got home, there was ransom. Okay. When I got home, I asked my parents what had happened. And they said, they had paid the ransom like since a while ago. And so these people were just keeping me for nothing.
Are you
They were
sure
just keeping
somebody
it for
that
nothing.
knows you personally is was not behind that shit?
Okay. See, I don't know what happened there, but God, I don't even want to. I see till now. I know the exact place where I was held. I can go back there. I can go back to the exact building.
Oh.
Right? But the thing is, we didn't pursue it because my parents made a report with the police, but they didn't want Nigerian police drama because it's going to be business. So when I go out, I was.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please subscribe up Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, and other places you find podcasts. Check out the show notes for links you may find useful, including our Discord server. Would love to have you there. Have a great week, and I'll catch you on the next one.